We'd like to welcome you all here today. My name is Mike Callahan. This is the Calling in School session, and we appreciate you all coming today, and we hope you get something out of our discussion, our panel. How many here do call in schools right now? Okay, got about 3 or 4 or 5 or so. Okay, because you folks can probably kind of interject some of your own experiences and opinions and everything else as we go along. Okay. The theme of the convention this year is realize every new opportunity, okay? And in keeping with this theme, when the CALLERLAB committee and the planning committee, home office were in the process of planning this convention, we thought that calling teaching square dancing in schools in the educational setting was a real huge new opportunity to promote to our membership. And this is why we scheduled this type of session. The session is being taped. When we get to our question and answer period, we have Mike here. We appreciate if you use the mic for any type of questions, answers, that type of thing. Okay. If you have a cell phone, could you please turn it off so we don't get that on the tape? Want to introduce our panel. To my left is Betsy. Betsy lives in North Brunswick, New Jersey, has been square dancing 51 years and calling square dancers for 42 years. She's taught over 50 sets of beginner lessons, over 20 sets of plus lessons, A2, C1, C2, C3, basic, mainstream, etc. And she calls for 5 square dance clubs. Has a very nice video on the market. I'm not sure if you've seen it, but it's quite a great teaching video. Okay, she is an accredited CALLERLAB coach. She has done CALLERLAB coaching sessions all over the world. And she's been a member since 1976. Okay, Betsy's going to be talking about grades 4 through 8. All right, teaching grades 4 through 8. Henerlau. Eric is from Corte Madera. Did I say that right? Corte Madera, California, near San Francisco. He's been calling 24 years, has taught beginner classes through C2, and he currently calls 2 weekly plus DVD workshops, does some multi-cycle work, has done many festivals, one-night stands in that general area. He's going to be talking about square dancing in high school, and also have you done some elementary school also? I've done a little bit. Okay, and he's going to talk more into the high school program, okay? My name is Mike Callahan, and I've been calling since 1960. I've done this full-time since 74. And I've been involved in school programs about 30 years and kind of lost track, okay? I've done teacher in-service workshops, and I call for 6 clubs in our area and travel quite a bit for festivals in the Northeast. One of the things, before we start getting to our panel, I want to say a few words here. Many people will tell you that they experienced square dancing in the elementary and high school days, and it was not a good experience. Many schools that do teach square dancing in the phys ed programs are using the same antiquated music, sound equipment that were used 30 years ago. And this is part of the problem we eventually have recruiting new dancers into our clubs, okay? They have a negative image of what they went through in school learning square dancing. Many phys ed teachers have had no training in teaching square dancing. The unit comes up, and they really kind of don't know what to do, especially the modern square dance. They're not comfortable doing it. Some teachers relate the square dancing, to the old barn dance, the cowboys and Indians and all that type of thing. And it's not to say that all schools do this, but there's a lot of schools that need help in bringing square dancing into the modern 21st century. One of the things we're going to try to concentrate on today, there's 3 questions that a lot of callers ask about schools. How do I get my foot in the door? What kind of choreography I should use with different age levels? And also, can you give me some idea of what kind of fee I should charge? Where does the money come from? Who pays? Okay. I'm a little fortunate because in our area, New York State requires a rhythms and dance unit as part of their phys ed program, especially for elementary school. And a lot of the schools in our area have been doing square dancing so long, so it wasn't really too difficult for me to break into the schools when I started doing that. Okay. things to consider before you go into schools. You must be in good physical shape. You've got to stand for 4 to 6 hours if you're doing different classes through the day, okay? Proper use of voice, extremely important, okay? You're in a big high school gym. You got to let the equipment do the work for you. You can't yell. If you're really interested in going to schools and really starting out, buy a wireless mic. It will save you so much work, and it'll save your voice, okay? You got to get out right on the floor and demonstrate things. Children, especially younger children, are not coordinated physically. So if you're very fussy about styling, about timing, about that type of thing, don't work in the schools, okay? You must enjoy working with children and be able to relate with them on their level. If you can't do it, if you have to fake that type of thing, they will see right through you, okay? When I present a square dance program in conjunction with a school's phys ed program, I have 2 goals. First is the positive and fun experience that kids have is much more important than the number of calls they learn, the definition of the calls, the styling, the technical correctness that they do. I want the kids to come away with the idea that square dancing is a recreation. Okay, it's not just a folk dance, it's a recreation that a lot of people enjoy. So the first thing that I do is I give a short 3 to 5 minute talk about the history of square dancing, how it evolved from the European folk dances. I tell them about the square dance clubs, the camp dance programs that are available nowadays, square dance weekends, cruises, state and national conventions. This gives them the idea that square dancing is not just a country dance, it's a recreation, okay? I will tell them that for many people, square dancing is the social value of it, and it's physical exercise, as many people bowl, many people roller skate, that type of thing. Square dancing is what people use for physical exercise. I emphasize the team aspect of square dancing rather than the partner aspect. Okay, you're working as a team, you're working with a group of 8 people. The caller is the quarterback, you might want to say. You're working in a team, you've got to follow the quarterback's instructions. Went to a school a couple of weeks ago, and the phys ed teacher said, didn't call it square dancing, he said, this is team dancing to music, which I thought was really kind of an innovative type of thing, okay? So teams of 8 people work to accomplish a goal. 1 or 2 people can break the whole team down, okay? In teaching, and this will also probably be emphasized by our panel, in teaching I try to use modern music, very little traditional sound, okay? I try to keep everything light, peppy, continually praise them as they go along if they're doing well. Sometimes if the squares are not doing well, you can rotate the boys to another square or all the girls around to another square. That might help, okay? One of the things you want to consider is when you're working in a school, you are not there to be a disciplinarian. That's the teacher's job. And you consider yourself a guest in the school, and you should receive respect from students as such. If you feel things start to get out of hand, this is the time to refer to the teacher to regain control of the class. At the end of the class, or even during the class, you want to do singing calls that are light, that are current music. One of the schools always requests Pink Cadillac, New Attitude, Stand By Me. Some of these songs that the kids can relate to, okay? The music that you use is 90% of the success that you will have in schools. I might end up with an easy line dance, depending on the age group, but you must keep the kids active and stress the fun rather than the technical definitions of the calls, okay? I guess we're going to start today with Eric. Yeah, oh, you want to go last? Sure, okay. Betsy, is that all right with you?
Yep.
Okay. We're going to start with Betsy, and she's going to tell about some of her experiences, and we're going to try to concentrate on some of the choreography that we use with grades 4 through 8. So, Betsy, here you are.
Now, hello. Now let me preface this by saying I have a couple of handouts, so you don't have to take notes. And then I think so. I think I made 50 of each. Okay. And that includes when I give music samples, the records are already listed on the handout. Yeah, that would be good. You want to pass them out? Sounds good to me. Now, how to get contacted. Personally, I fell into this. I did not try and get into the schools to teach in schools. A school called me. The way it happened the first time for me was that in New Jersey, they lobbied and got square dancing named as a state folk dance. A 4th grade class was studying the state of New Jersey and found out that square dancing was named as a state folk dance. They contacted someone who was a friend of their teachers who taught dancing at Rutgers University, the state university, and asked about square dancing. That person just happened to have been in our square dance club when we had an on-campus square dance club, and she felt that I would do a good job and gave my name to the teacher. And I did what I would consider, it was not a class per se. It would be like an assembly program, an introductory program, an interest, a one-time party with some history and a lot of dancing for all the 4th grades in that school. Later on down the line, a 3rd grade teacher got my name off the internet, and all of the referrals that I have gotten since then, people have looked on the internet. Our Colors Association has its membership list. It has a web page, and they have gotten my name off the internet. And they call me and say, I found your name on the internet. Do you do square dancing? And are you available during the day? Now, I took an early retirement from my office job about 3 years ago, so I am available during the day. And the people in our association know that. So if they reach someone else in my association, they will refer them over to me. And interestingly, because I like a lot of different types of dancing, I also square dance with, or I also contra dance with a traditional contra dance group. And I just, before I left here, got an email from a caller for that group who got a contact from schools in Princeton, New Jersey. She can't do it. She still works during the day, but she wondered if I was available or knew somebody who could do it. So I may pick up another job from there. So
the bottom line here is stop working during the day?
Well, the bottom line here is it helps to be available during the day. When I still had the office job to do the 4th grade program, I had to take a sick or a personal day. And, that's worth it, but you can't do a whole lot of you can't do a whole lot of school programs if you have to call in sick all the time. Kind of could impact upon your main income. So, now, I have not done, as I said, a lot of teaching series. I do 1 day, 1 period introductions to square dancing. So I have a very short time to kind of give the kids a taste of dancing and to possibly change attitudes and change perceptions of what square dancing is. So my first thought is make the kids as comfortable as possible. I learned this from a teacher because I have a limited amount of time. I don't want a lot of fuss and confusion in getting partners and getting squares. This one 3rd grade phys ed teacher, she did know about square dancing. She was somewhat comfortable. She had taught the kids certain calls, and then she called me to be like the dessert. After they had learned with her, I came in and did a dance for the kids. Well, she had this gymnasium set up. She had cones in the floor with numbers on each cone. All the kids knew who their partner was and which square they were going to be in, and they just came on in, and each one of them sat down around the cone, and they were all ready to go, which eliminated a lot of hassle and a lot of time. So now when the teacher calls me, I tell them the best thing that you can do to get this started is to assign or have them choose partners and assign them in groups of 8 and, list that so that there's no waste of time when you come in to get them squared up. They already know their group.
And this is a good thing to do when somebody does call you. A lot of teachers say, well, what should I do? How can I prepare for you? As Betsy says, if you can give them some ideas that will help Get them into squares quickly. That's usually the main thing. Or if you're working with little kids, believe it or not, put a star on the right and nothing on the left or something like that, okay? But try to give them some type of a background of what you need to be set up for you.
Now, with the 3rd and 4th graders, especially. Now, let me tell you a couple of other things. I have 4 to 8. I have not actually worked with people in grades 5, 6. I have done grades 3, 4, 7, 8, and high school classes. So I'm just assuming that 5 and 6 are kind of like 4. They haven't yet graduated to where they really want to hold hands between the boys and the girls. Definitely in 4, you do not touch members of the opposite sex. It's like, yeah. Right. If they get that close, or it's kind of like, yeah.
I have found that usually starts about 3rd grade.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, the 3rd
kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, no
the
problem.
3rd graders that had been taught by this phys ed teacher had been taught to hold hands, so they were conditioned and it was okay. One of the things that I have done, like when I did, I just did 2nd graders, and I did have some of that. I did not worry about having boy-girl partners. I want to make them as comfortable as possible, so I don't worry about the terms boys and girls. I use partner, corner, opposite, heads and sides, and where home is and things like that. But I don't worry about partner or boy and girl, because one of the things is if you have 2 boys who would be comfortable dancing together, but then I have to call one of them a girl, this could lead to a lot of teasing afterwards and be very uncomfortable. So I don't want that associated with my activity. So make the kids as comfortable as possible. If possible, have the teacher help them to choose partners and make up squares prior to your arrival. Eliminate barriers to learning by not embarrassing the kids. And we just talked about holding hands, but let's talk about right and left. We talked about putting a sticker on. One of the things that I've found, and it seems to work as far down as kids in 2nd grade, is if you tell everybody, face your partner and shake hands, they will reach with the right hand without thinking about it. They will automatically shake hands because we've been conditioned in this society to meet somebody and shake hands. So then, if I want them to use the right hand, I'll go shake hands, and that's the right hand, so now I want you to do such and such. And if I want them to use the left hand, I go shake hands, now raise the other hand, that one's your left hand, and I want you to let go of the right hand and start joining the left hand. The funny part about this is if I tell them to shake hands, they will continue to shake hands until I tell them to stop. So by not embarrassing them, by making them use left and right, or pointing out who might be wrong, I've made them comfortable again. I have the headset mic. I usually get on the floor. I personally use a mini disc for my music these days, and I have recorded my pattern music. I don't loop it because I'm not technologically involved with that. I recorded my pattern music to the length that I want. So I have long patterns, so I have things that are 10 minutes long. So if I'm starting in one of these programs, I might put on a 10-minute pattern, and I'm going to get up and I'm going to be out on the floor, and I don't have to worry about putting the needle back for 10 minutes. And that's fine. And then all I have to do, I kind of know where the end is, and I'll be up front and just push the button to take it back and start over again if I want to continue on. And I will run them pretty long without any breaks because there's a lot of energy there. Now, so we've eliminated the decision about right and left. For promenade, I teach them the cross handhold by saying, okay, everybody with your partner, without turning to face your partner, reach across and shake hands, and they will get the right hands joined. Shake hands. Yep, shake hands. Now join the other hands underneath the right hands. Excuse me, I have to let go of this mic. And they automatically have that promenade handhold.
Now, I've found that working with very small children, kindergarten, 1st grade, it's too much for them to do that. I just say join your inside hands and walk, rather than trying to figure out what hand goes over what, who goes into what.
All of which makes a perfect sense, making them as comfortable as possible. We're not going to turn them into people who are going to perform square dancing or come to our clubs right away. We just want to give them a good time. In teaching do-so-do, the description does not in any way connect So I usually will pick on a teacher, and I'll tell them, I'm not going to embarrass you. You're just going to do this, and we'll go out in the middle of the floor, and I'll say, now we walk past each other, and I'll make sure I'm on the right side, so there's no way the teacher can foul up. And then we go move sideways without bumping, and then back up, and I'll demonstrate it a few times before I tell anybody to do it. Demonstrations are a wonderful, wonderful way of doing this. I start usually with join hands and circle left. And then I'll say, now circle the other way, go circle right. And I may be out on the floor circling with a group. I may just jump into one square. So they now have 9 people. And then circle right, go the other way back. Now let go of hands and keep walking that same way. And then I'll tell them that has another name. It's called promenade, single file. And promenade came from French, meaning to walk. That's part of our heritage. And then I'll go back and everybody face the center and circle left and circle right. And then promenade, single file. And we always walk them on promenade this way. And they don't have to know it's counterclockwise. They just know it's, oh yeah, we're going that direction. Then after I promenade single file, I can have people move in so they're standing next to their partner like spokes of a wheel. And promenade, keep walking that same way. Where's your partner? Is your partner ahead of you? Okay, then you move into the middle and stand next to your partner and promenade 2 by 2. You were going to say something,
I was thinking, I have a lot of fun with the call swing with little kids. Usually in school you don't teach the regular Western swing. It's an elbow swing is usually probably the best thing. But especially for like if you're working with 5th, 6th graders, you say, okay, got 2 ways to swing. I'll let you guys choose which one you want to do. So I'll go with the phys ed teacher, especially if it's a lady, we'll do the elbow swing, and then I'll do the other swing. So which one do you want to do? Like, oh, we'll do the elbow swing,
Sometimes with little kids, and this digresses slightly, it really belongs in beginner parties, but I'll put it in anyway. Sometimes with little kids, I'll use a 2-hand swing. And I'll have them face your partner, shake hands, and then join the other hand. They already then have the promenade handhold also. And if you're working with parents anywhere, they don't have to bend. So they don't go out of the room looking like Quasimodo at the end of the dance because they were bending down to hook elbows with their kid or put their arm around them and swing whichever way. But a lot of times I'll just let them, if you say swing, they'll probably go into an elbow swing. They've seen it somewhere. And that's fine. I'm not going to hassle them. I want them to enjoy this. Okay, now we talked about genderless dancing. For the 7th and 8th grades, I was calling one day, and they had all opposite sex partners, and they were kind of doing a little bit of the, ooh, I don't want to touch. And I stopped the music, and I said, excuse me, I noticed that some of you don't want to hold hands with members of the opposite sex. Now, if you were in 4th grade, I'd expect that. But you guys are in 7th and 8th grade, and I really didn't expect that of you folks. And so it's not going to hurt you, and I promise you, they'll let you wash your hands at the end of the hour. And after that, I kind of made a joke, and they all held hands. And they probably didn't like it, some of them, but that's all right. Use a limited number of calls so the dancers are not confused, and repeat, 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 repeat. The ones that I normally would use, and this to me doesn't matter how old they are. I'm just going to use, these would be the maximum, and would be do-si-do, right hand and left hand stars, circle left and right, which I didn't put down because it was so obvious to me. Promenade, swing. I have promenade twice. How interesting. And if it was an older group, I might teach scram right and left, or I might teach Allaman left. I would not necessarily teach them both, and one would not flow into the other.
You have much more success teaching a grand right and left first, and then adding the Allaman left afterwards.
Do you teach Allaman left to the grade levels you have? I mean, to the 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders?
I would only be able to do that if I were doing more than one session. The one group that I had where the teacher had taught them some calls in advance, they already had like do-si-do and stars and promenade and swing down pat. And I added that. I think they might have even had grand right and left. And Allaman left was one of the calls I added to that 3rd grade class because they already had a background. But if I'm only doing an hour to an hour and a half, no, I would never get Alaman left in that time period. I would probably not get Grand Right and Left in that time period if it's a brand new introduction. Music. Pick music that is not hokey. Some of you, when you're coming in the room, we were playing some different tunes that we like. And I have a whole list of things that I use on the handouts. For my convenience, I would prefer not to use Turkey in the Straw. I don't think, to be totally honest, I'm not sure I own a copy of Turkey in the Straw. And no offense to anybody who does these at beginner parties or whatever, but I will never, I swear I will never put on the birdie song. I will never do that. I'm sorry for anyone who likes it. It's not square dancing to me. It's a very cute song and a lot of kids like it, but I'm there to introduce my activity, which is square dancing. If other people want to do it, that's fine. Now, since I have the mini discs, one of the things I did when I was starting to go into schools was I put a lot of the music that I might want to use for schools on the same disc. So I don't have to change a lot. I just can go from one to the other. Now, let me... no, I just need organization. Actually, I need something else. So, if it's got a good beat and easy to dance to, I'll give it an 85. That shows my age. But basically, a good solid beat is what we're going to look for. Now, this is sound slow. It was originally Dwayne Eddy, Rebel Blues. It's a 1950s rock and roll piece. It is a square dance label, but it was recorded originally by Dwayne Eddy, and it doesn't sound like a square dance label. It's got a strong guitar lead. They're going to pick up on the beat. What else have I got on here? I just wrote down the disc number, so I have no clue as to what I'm going to at this point in my life. Life is so exciting. No, that's not one I want. I want 17. Duh. It's called Rock This Town. And the label is probably on the handout, so don't worry about writing it down. Okay. Now these would work either for kids or for older, grade school or high school. I have used these for both, as long as it's got a good beat. Now this I would probably use more for high school. I was telling somebody when they were playing it in the beginning, I think I gave a high school kid whiplash because he heard that first wow, and he turned his head and looked at me so fast that I think he hurt his neck. And like, that wasn't what he expected. Now, some of this you may not be able to relate to, but you need to find what you can call to. I think the square dance recording is Mean Woman Blues. What it was originally, who knows? They changed these tunes. Now, for some of the younger kids, one of the things that they brought out was a singing call to a Disney medley. I have not yet achieved singing to that, but it makes a great pattern because they recognize all the tunes. Where are we? That's one drawback of this particular machine. Be patient with me. Oh, that's Hakuna Matata. That one I would use for a singing call, or the grade school kids, and they'll sing along. Now the ones that surprised me, seriously, is now I'm well over their parents' age and probably close to their grandparents' age for the grade school kids, and I thought Zippity Doo-Dah was like way out of, their understanding. Guess what? They all know the words. So it works really well. Let me just check the disc for the Disney medley. It's on 12 and 31. Same disc. Again, I've tried to record some of these on the same disc so I don't have to go too far. What I do in one of my programs is I'll do patter. Say I have an hour, hour and a quarter. I'll do patter for 15, 20 minutes and get a lot of stuff introduced and keep them dancing. And then I'll change music, and then I'll introduce a singing call and just do one. With the elementary school, I would not do a partner change. That would be beyond the realm of I would be totally fearful and beyond the realm of possibility of success. I want them to succeed. I don't want them to feel that they were stupid and couldn't get it right. And then I would probably do more patter and maybe another singing call. I do limit the singing calls. There it is. There's the Disney medley. So they start off with the Electric Light Parade. Yeah. I don't even have to sing. They may be singing. I'm just going to call patter, but they're going to go. And they have the music, and they can dance with the music. And it goes through several different Disney songs. Next one is Small World. If we play it, you'll all sing it for the rest of the week. Yes. And on and on. So, and Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious is next. Now it's Zippity Doo-Dah. Rat. See, I don't have it memorized. And they'll all sing to this. This is what I saw from the back. Okay, so you get the idea. And Zippity Doo-Dah was also recorded on a Square Dance label, and it works quite well. I have had great success with everybody recognizing that tune. Okay, this will be the last one. I also have a list of singing calls that I have used, for older kids, but that's not my menu this time. So you get the idea. There are calls that I might use. Basically, I'm looking to break the stereotype. I don't want people, they categorize square dancing. Oh, you always dance to country western music. Their parents believe that. That's what they've heard. I want to change that. And so they go home and go, we didn't dance to all country western music. It was kind of neat. Oh, one more. Just one more. And then I need to let Eric go next. No, Mike's going next. Okay. Yeah. One more, and this was interesting because I put this on and there were 3rd and 4th graders in the room and they're all like, oh, wow. And it is a square dance record. Play, you little beast. Sometime today. And that's not it. Oh, well. Wrong number. Here we go. So the girl, they're like, that's Michael Jackson. And language. All of a sudden they're going, go forward and back. Thriller. It's on the handout. And the other side is called Billie Jean, and it's equally non-standard, so it's cool too. There are 2 handouts. Did you get both of them? There's a single-page handout that I think that was not passed out yet. Now, there are other titles that would work, but I'm not comfortable with. I don't do pink Cadillac, so I'm not going to sell it, so I simply don't use it. But for those of you who can sell it, that's cool. Well, that's one of the important things. You can't just have cool music. You have to be able to feel comfortable with it. If you have what might be cool music and you can't sell it, you sound like, Mrs. Nerd singing to the cool song, they're going to pick up on that right away. I have lots of help from the teachers. I've had lots of help from the teachers. There's still kids who don't want to participate. In the phys ed classes, some of them will take a 0 rather than dance. I try not to focus on them. They sit them down and they stay someplace. And then there are children who don't want to dance, but they'll try because they don't want to take a 0. And then I'll try and get out on the floor and encourage, and I will dance around the room and jump into squares if they're having a little bit of difficulty, and all of a sudden I'll stick my hand in and make the star with them and stuff like that. And be positive. I try and look, if there are kids that are hunched over and frowning, I look at the ones who aren't. Because that way I can have the positive attitude and I will help better sell my product. Sometimes the teachers that I've worked with have a small reward for the, quote, best groups. And that seems to give a good incentive. That was a teacher's idea, not mine. So that's my experience, and I have a second handout, which you will all be welcome to take after they go on. Mike?
Anybody have any questions for Betsy at this point?
I'm doing a 1-hour program. I don't do name tags. And Mike said he did an intro at the end. A lot of times if I'm doing an intro, I'll let them dance, and then they'll be tired, and then they'll be ready to listen because they're pooped, and then I'll talk to them. And this one group I just did in 2nd grade, I had question and answer, and we went on for 10, 15 minutes. They were very interested in which country square danced and who was the first square dancer here in the United States. I told them it had to be more than one person. But I knew George Washington had square danced.
A lot of children don't know that square dancing is all over the world. When you tell them it's in Sweden and Germany and Japan, and people learn the calls in English, and all the calls are made in English, it's quite, they're really interested in that, okay? How can people learn how to square dance? They don't speak English. Well, the caller teaches them in English, he teaches the calls to them, and they're overwhelmed with that, a lot of them. You wanted to go next, Eric? You want me to do something? Okay.
I'm going to pass this one out.
Okay. As Betsy was doing some music, I just got a couple of things out here. This is called Funky Town on Chaparral. There you go. Sometimes, when the kids are coming into the gym, you have the music playing. And, man, that's Funky Town, So right away you got them up a little bit, okay? I always tease the teachers that bring the kids into the class. I'll say, well, I'm going to wind them all up and send them back to you. And they go, thanks a lot. That's called Funky Town on Chaparral. This is called Believe on Rambling Rose Records. This is a share tune. Probably. Hear the beat of that. Okay. Kids like the beat. Right away, they're up a little bit. They don't hear the fiddles. Okay. Just a couple more. That's called Believe on Ramblin' Rose. That's very hard to get, from what I understand. This is called Sukiyaki Ho on Castle. Really nice music. Kind of cheerful a little bit. Old song Sukiyaki. Little kids sort of like that. It's on Castle Records. It's called Sukiyaki Ho. And the other side is what? Hey Jude Ho. And that's a good one too also. Okay. But as what Betsy and I are saying is that, use uplifting type music. Even when you're singing calls, probably everybody's heard this one. This is Help Me Rhonda on Royal Records. Everybody know who that is? Jerry Story and Tony Oxnard. But it's a current song. It's not a... Yeah. Well, that's how old I am.
While he's searching for records, seriously, one of the things I considered when I was going into the high school is I absolutely knew I had no really current songs. What I could do was classic rock or something that they would recognize like that.
Okay, a lot of callers say, what can I do with kindergarten? What can I do with first grade? I mean, these kids are really not coordinated at all. They don't know their right from their left. A lot of the real smaller children, what you might want to do is when they come into class, you have the teacher have them sit in a circle and have the teacher pick out a group, a square, and put them on the floor. And this goes to some real basic calls like, bow to your partner, bow to your corner, circle left, circle right, ladies in and back, boys in and back, maybe one right-hand star. Don't do the left, just the right, okay? But start out with the kids all watching one square. And then, after that square is done, then the teacher will get them up into squares on the floor, and they remember a lot of those calls real quickly, okay? I have a sheet out, and I think everybody got the handout, I hope, and it's got basically what calls I try to do with what grades. K1, grade 2, add, grade 3, add, okay? Don't forget, there's a lot of things you can do with not just heads and sides, but couples 1, 2, 3, and 4. Couple 1, bow to your partner. Couple 2, bow to your partner. Couple 3, bow to your partner. Couple 4. Same thing with the do-so-do, all the way around. Same thing with the swing, all the way around. You can have couple 1 go to couple 2 and make a right-hand star. 2 to go to 3, make a right-hand star. All these things, and to you it might be boring. The kids, it's not. They've never seen it, okay? So things that you can do with not just heads and sides, but all the couples around the square, okay? Again, what you have to do is before you come in, as we said, is make sure that they try to get a background of what right and left is, okay? Grade number 2, I might add the promenade instead of just walking with hands is with the crossed hands, okay? Might do single file promenade, might do reverse the ring, okay, where they just turn around and go back the other way. And what you got to do is go out on the floor and get in the squares and actually show them. I try to use a square, one demonstration square, and then everybody sits down, you go in, you do your thing, okay? The next time I'll pick out another square and I'll walk over to that one, get into that square, and demonstrate with those kids. So you try to use hopefully all the squares on the floor, or most of them, and the kids kind of think it's kind of neat, because they're performing among their friends. All right. I just want to say a few words real quick because you guys can. I'm sure you can figure out the choreography on the sheet that I gave you. Just that's some ideas, but how to get into schools. Okay. CALLERLAB puts out a book called Calling the Schools Handbook, SISH. Okay, it has a real nice introductory letter in there that you can write to the school administrator, to the phys ed people. You might want to write them. You might want to mail your letter out. You might want to put on the internet. All right, most schools have email now. You can email your letter, your resume, whatever you want, right to the phys ed department. Okay, you don't have to go through. I don't like to go through the principal. I go right to the phys ed people because they're the ones that are on the firing line. And if they like what you do, they'll convince the administration to bring you in, okay? Especially if you've been in the school one time and they like what you do. Phys ed people have a real great network. They have conferences, they get together a lot, and the word really spreads if they like something that you do. So this is called the Callers in Schools Handbook. That's available in the office we have over there. Another book that I've seen that is very good is Cal Campbell's Dancing for Busy People. Has a lot of good choreography in that, and you might want to check that out. I think Bill Heyman has that for sale over here, okay? Is there a CD to it? Oh, good. But volunteer. There's nothing wrong with volunteering. Yona. Sure. Yeah. Oh.
Thank you, Yona Chalk from Hawaii. Al and I retired about 12 years ago and decided that we wanted to devote the rest of our lives to being good little square dancers by teaching square dancing in the schools. We found a school that would accept us as volunteers, and we showed up early in the morning, and we're not morning people. It was a real sacrifice to get up early in the morning. We had $2,500 worth of equipment, records, and stuff with us, dressed up really elegant, and they canceled us for a fire drill. Then they turned around and said, "Can you come back tomorrow?" And we said, "No." We found out that there's a program in every state for cultural enrichment in the schools. In ours, it's called Artists in the Schools. We get listed there as approved artists in the schools. There's a website that teachers can go to download the information, and they have a suggested fee schedule. We get $85 for an hour session for the two of us going in now. It covers our BMI ASCAP and our gas and what have you. Thank you.
Okay. Again, if you're going to contact the school, if you're going to contact school phys ed, contact the phys ed department. Don't, and I shouldn't say this because there might be some administrators here, I don't know, but I've had a lot better luck going right to the phys ed teachers rather than going through the administration, okay? You might know a local artist that already works in the schools doing not maybe dancing, but maybe something else, okay? That might be a contact. How did you get into the school? What did you do, okay? It's real easy to get in to start with a school that already has a phys ed square dance program. If they're already doing it, maybe with records. Even if you're not that experienced a caller, you're probably better than the records they have, okay? And that's really true.
I need to interject. There was a young girl, she was about 10, and her dad had been in square dancing. There was a divorce, and he wanted to get back in it, but he wanted to dance with his daughter. So he ended up at our club because we have more of a family club. And she happened to be in school. She was living with her mother in the town that I live in, and she happened to be in school, and he called me because she had square dancing in school in the same town that I live in. And they brought out these records. It was the music teacher, not the phys ed teacher, but they brought out these records, and the teacher didn't even know how to put them on. They were 78. I'm going, oh my God. I volunteered, and I had the dad call the school. I said, because I'm not going to call the school and insult the teacher. But if you say you know somebody who will come in, I said, I will go in for free, for this group to change that perception. Because those are probably the records that are used in school when I was a kid, and they were hokey then. And that was a long time ago. Thank you very much. And the music teacher was totally resistant to this. She told the father that they already knew all they had to about square dancing. They had a fine program, and they didn't need any help from anyone else. So there in that school, they still get the whole old-time square dance that will make you cringe.
Many schools have cultural arts programs, okay? Artist in residency, sometimes it's called an artist in residency, where you actually go into a school and you're considered an artist for a couple of days or a week or whatever, okay? Every year in August in September, I send out an email introductory letter, and in fact, I got a copy of it attached to one of the handouts, to probably 200 schools, even if I've gone in there before. In fact, what I try to do is I send the ones that I've been to first, give them a couple of weeks, and then just send them. And, you know, sometimes I could call, sometimes I never do, but every year those letters go out, okay? You never know when there's new teachers, new administration, new policies, that type of thing. You might have a teacher who didn't like square dancing. He retired. You got a person there now who wants to try something different. So every year I send these things out, okay? Who pays? School budget. Sometimes they do have funds in the school budget for some type of an art program, all right? Some of the high schools I work with, the student council pays for this, all right? They have funds from the student council. PTA groups, that's probably the biggest. You know, they'll have a person who's a parent who's in charge of a parent-teachers association who's in charge of bringing special type of programs in for the kids, all right? Visiting artist funds, artist in residency funds, cultural art funds. You might want to go to your local library and investigate this, that if there is some type of a cultural art program in your area for schools, okay? Are you up to the task? Does your state require you to have a degree to teach or be fingerprinted? New York State, and fortunately I do substitute teaching also, I am fingerprinted. New York State requires all teachers to be fingerprinted to go into school work with the kids now, okay? Pardon me? TB test. Now that they haven't done that yet, I'm surprised. You got to have a low-key personality, not easily upset. You don't want to be a perfectionist, like I said before, okay, as far as definitions, timing, that type of thing. You relate well to kids of all ages and backgrounds. A lot of diverse schools now, okay? You got to enjoy working with all races, all creeds. You know, if you have a problem with that, don't go into the schools. Relate well with teachers, administrators. You have long days, okay? You might teach 6, 7, 8 classes with a half-hour lunch. All right, a lot of standing, correct use of voice, music that we said young people relate to. All right, what kind of judgment do you have regarding what choreography to use with what ages? This is what we're trying to tell you some of the ideas that you can do. You got to be able to use singing calls with extremely basic choreography, extremely basic. All right, line dances. If you have some line dances, and I do the chicken dance, sorry about that, all right? But with the little kids, they love it, all right? Fun dances, the alley cat, there's a line dance called hands up. The more things that you can get in your repertoire, the more valuable you are to do the school systems, especially with the younger grades, okay? With that, any questions for me, by the way? Yeah. Oh, yeah, why don't you run the mic, Betsy? Thanks.
1, 2, okay, it's on.
Art Harvey, Las Cruces. For Betsy and you both, Mike, do either of you ever start out with a circle? Start kids out in a circle, or you go right into squares?
Myself, I go into squares.
Well, I'd worked with
at a one-night stand or something like that, I might do a big circle type of thing. But usually in the schools, I try to get them right into squares because you only have a certain amount of time to work with them.
Yeah. I worked at the Catholic school in El Paso a couple of times, and generally for a 2-hour program. And I started them out in a circle because then you can get the circle left, circle right, and identification of partner in corner in the circle, and then single file promenade, and actually couples promenade in the circle, and then break them up, and then even maybe have one couple turn around and face the other couple, and then do stars. And then when you got couples facing couples, you can break them up into squares very easy that way also. And the father at the school, he already runs a hard thumb on them.
I would probably not do that too much with real little kids, but that would be a real good idea for older children.
Well, in my program there, I mean, the times I've done it, it's a small school, so all the grades are together. First grade, there was 3 seniors this year, 1 or 2 juniors, and about 8 first graders, and they're all out doing the same thing at the same time.
How long is your program, Mark?
2 hours. 2 hours.
Yeah. Well, my answer is 2 hours. I might change that, but if I'm only dealing with dancing for an hour, then I've got a limited time, and I'm jumping right into squares.
Or 40 minutes.
Or 40 minutes, because the time that I would waste organizing some of these things would be lost forever. I thought
Dave Harry, Linwood, Washington. I teach every single day in the public schools and do everything from kindergarten through community college. And I guess I take a little different approach from all of you in here. I do start out in circles like you. When I work with kindergarten, 1st and 2nd grade, kindergarten, 1st grade, that's all I put them in is in circles. And you start off, put them in a circle, let them face you, you raise your right hand and go around the circle and ask everybody to raise their right hand and correct the ones that don't have the right hand up, and then turn around and raise your left hand and play a little game with them then. Raise your right, raise your left, raise your right, raise your left, raise your right, raise your right. And they start giggling and relaxing and doing all that. And then circle to the right, circle to the left. We do right and left hand stars out of the circle, but when we do that, I'm in the middle of the circle doing the movement myself. I'll put them in a left-hand star and we'll walk, and I'll tell them to follow the person in front of them around the circle. And then I'll say, make like an airplane. And everybody turn around and put your right hand in the center of the star and do the same thing. Make like an airplane, turn around, put your left hand in the star. Hop like a rabbit, and we'll hop. You better be in good physical condition, because you're going to have to hop with them. Hop like a rabbit. Face to the center of the circle. Touch your toes. Touch your nose. Touch your hips. Wiggle your hips. Make a left-hand star and start all over again and go through all of that all over again.
The small children really love this type of stuff.
Don't ever underestimate the power of those little kids' brains. I teach, I have a little circle dance that I teach to Achy Breaky Heart. I choreographed it one day when I had to do a college program, and they were drunker than a skunk, and they couldn't do square dancing, so I had to start writing choreography so that I could do stuff with them. I use that for my little kids. We teach white silver sands to them, but when we teach white silver sands, you don't teach it like you would teach adults. You put a storyline to it. We tell them, we're going to go out on a hunt, and we're going to hunt a one-eyed, one-legged, very ferocious, but very dumb lollipop. Ever seen one of those in the wild? And they all chuckle and whatever. And we tell them to crouch over, and everybody turn around, sneak backwards. Now we've gotten a little too close to him, and he's rumbled his rubber, and he's ready to attack us, so we've got to scare him. So we're going to stomp, stomp, stomp away from him, turn around and stomp the other direction. And then you switch it to, okay, now we're going to our homes. Our homes aren't normal homes. Our homes are castles. We're not normal people. We're kings and queens. We're not normal kings and queens. We're snooty kings and queens. Put your noses in the air, balance apart and together, and apart and together. When you get to the circle, I don't teach it as a mixer, because I don't believe in mixers with little kids, because you're changing and you end up with all the boys over here and all the girls over here. So when we get to the little part where you balance, where you circle away and together, I say, okay, we're going to be an animal. What kind of an animal? And you go around and ask.
See what
and then I get lollipop and whatever, and then I say, and then somebody will finally say, a monkey. And you say, yes, we're going to be monkeys. You got to scratch like a monkey. You got to eek like a monkey. And then we say, we're going to be an insect. What kind of an insect? It's a butterfly. And you balance back and forth. When you get done going through all of these things, then you turn around and say, okay, what did we do first? And they will go through the entire dance and recite it to you. And all you have to do is say each one of those things, and they will dance it. That's a very complex dance. And 5 minutes into the thing, you've got them dancing it. So don't ever underestimate the power of the student out there. They can do anything you want to teach them if you be creative with it.
What Dave is doing is relating to the kids on their level, okay? And you got to be able to do this if you're going to work with young children. You can't be embarrassed to do it. You've got to be able to relate to the kids. One more question. I want to get Eric going here.
Just real quick, Paul Moore from North San Juan, California. Population 125. But a couple of things we talked about, getting kids to hold hands, and you said particularly 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, they don't want to touch. And I have found that if you get them to hold their hands up about shoulder high, then you can say, it's okay to touch because cooties won't go uphill.
And there's still cooties.
Oh yeah, no, they understand that one. Because if you're holding hands down below the waist, now you're holding hands like boyfriend, girlfriend. But you get the hands up above the shoulder, and now this is just somebody you're dancing with. Is one. I like the starting in circles, but I will also start them in lines of 3 facing counterclockwise. And there are so many dances that you can do in 3s, and then you don't have the partner problem at all.
That's an excellent idea.
And then there was one other, and it's gone forever, so pass the mic.
Okay, Eric. He's going to talk about working with high school kids.
Wow, that was really good. Hey, Dave, thank you. Can I use that microphone, please? Get a chance to talk to Dave later. Dave does an incredible program up in Linwood, and he does teach at all the levels. He mentioned all the grades, and I remember talking to Dave last year and learning a lot from him. I'm going to talk about teaching in high school. Does anybody currently teach in high schools? One, two. Okay. This is going to be very different than what Betsy and Mike just talked about, okay? So I'm going to talk about it from that standpoint. I have done some work in the grade schools and in junior high. Yeah, I have a package here for the high school. I only made 20 because I didn't read my instructions. And I counted 38 people now with Clark in the room. So if you want a package on this, please feel free to take it. If I run out, I'll keep one here. I'll make more copies at the copy center and make them available to you later. But there are 20 copies of the package up here. I've worked with 4th graders in brief sessions like what Betsy's talking about with Mike, and I've done work with 6th graders, kind of following my kids through school as they got older, kind of end up in their classes, right? So when they got into high school, it was the very same thing. The teacher had the record playing, as I remember it so well, Hinky Dinky Parlez-Vous on an old Newcomb type set, and the DJ said, look, they're having fun. And all these kids were dressed in their PE shorts in the gym, and they're rolling their eyes. And I said, you know what, tell you what, and I offered my services and went from there. So had a good time with that. So I do work in the high schools at the sophomore level, which is 10th grade. So all the kids are 15 to 16 years old. Now, this is I do it as part of the PE program. So it's compulsory. In California, kids have to have PE through at least their sophomore. They have to have 2 years of PE in high school, and usually they do it in freshman and sophomore year, and they're done. So I get to see all the sophomores. I see maybe 350, 400 kids a year doing this thing. But let me just give you a sense starting out what it's going to sound like. I mean, when they walk in the door, is this going to work? Oh, I got So when they're walking in the door, getting ready for the class, you're going to hear this. And this isn't Bachman Turner or whoever did the original one. This is Lenny Kravitz. See, if you don't recognize this Lenny Kravitz, then you got to think about this one because this is what they're listening to. But then they're going to go into something else, and then everybody will recognize it. And they're going to hear this music. Now, I'm always playing music because what I'm going to do is create for everybody a party atmosphere because I want them to think of square dancing as fun. The most important thing is what Betsy said earlier. I don't really care if they learn technically how to do everything right. That's not the important thing to me. I want them at the end to walk out going, hey, that was cool. That was a lot of fun. So somewhere down the road, I know that if somebody knocks on the door when they're 20, 25, 30, whatever, and say, hey, you want to try square dancing? I go, yeah, that was cool. I want to do that. That was really cool. So with that, I want to make sure I put a program together that's going to be exciting, that they're going to really relate to at their level today. I have a very different approach to square dancing than a lot of my peers, and so I bring a very contemporary twist to it, especially with the music and especially with the way I teach the whole thing. And what I do isn't for everyone. There's a lot of callers who look at what I do and say, well, that's great, but that's not my style. Okay? So I'm just telling you my style and how I work with kids. I appeal to their intellect. I really want to appeal to their sense of learning and appealing to the challenging aspect of the square dancing. I don't appeal necessarily to their sense of dance or rhythm or community. Now, those are all things we can talk about with adults that they're interested in. The kids at this level are not necessarily appealing to a sense of particular rhythm or dance or how to do something. They're appealing like, okay, it's like a team activity. It's a team sport. How is it working as a team? I appeal to this sense of competition. And this works very well, especially at the end of every class, to see who's the best square and who can do it at the fast speed. Before every class, I talk to the kids ahead. Let me back up a second. I go in every year and I do a 6-week program. Okay, so I'm going in there and I'm taking personal time off work to do this. I'll go in and do a 6-week program, usually on a Friday, 6 Fridays in a row, and I will teach square dancing in a 6-week class of square dance. So each week is building on the previous week. I'm teaching 7 periods a day for 6 weeks. And you know what? I've never been a teacher before, but for all you teachers out there, God bless you, because that's really something. If you've never done that, so you stand there for 7 periods teaching the same material 7 periods in a row, and you're enthusiastic, right? It's really, really something. Teachers are way underpaid, I'll tell you that. You know, I talk to the kids ahead when I start the program. I explain to them. I give them a syllabus. I have a written syllabus that says, this is the outline. This is what we're going to do. We're going to be teaching this calls every week. This has all the calls listed in there, the definitions of the calls, lifted right from CALLERLAB, just pop right on there. I put a program together of the calls I want to teach and the sequence I want to teach. It's not in the CALLERLAB order at all. I do my pick and choose of the calls I want to do. I'm trying to get the dance, what I call a functional vocabulary of dancing to those teenagers as fast as possible. And to me, and that means something different to everybody. To me, a functional vocabulary of dancing is how fast can I get them to into lines, pass through, bend the line, right and left through, star through, dive through, square through, all that kind of stuff that kind of moves you all around the square. Okay, I get into that in 5 weeks, and then moving all around. We don't get into waves. We do get into veer left, veer right, and circulates. We get into all that, but we get into what I call functional vocabulary, where I can really start moving them all over the square, and I get to the point where I'm actually sight-calling all of that at that point. So I'm doing all the circulates and bend the lines and pass through and California twirls and star through, stuff you can just kind of, the old days, we used to call it like a chicken plugger type routines, but you just keep going on with it. You can build on that. And by the end of the 6 weeks, I'm usually into that, plus like wheel and deal, zoom, double pass through, a few things like that. I skip circle to a line, walk around your corner, do paso. I skip all those calls. Nothing wrong with those calls. I just don't particularly use them. I use what I call, if you think of square dancing as 2 sets of calls, you can look at it as the circle game and the grid game. And all the grid calls, all the lines, and all the stuff that works in lines and shapes and rectangles and all that. And then the circle calls, circle left, circle right, all the ones that are more circular in pattern. And I teach all the line-oriented kind of calls.
I think what Eric's saying, too, is that the more variety you use, especially with the older kids, the shapes, the lines, don't have them circle all the time, getting different types of shapes, and formations, that type of thing as soon as you can. As you say, it appeals to their intellect.
It does. And I tell you that probably 3/4 of the kids are in algebra and maybe half the kids in geometry and maybe 10% are in pre-calculus. So we're dealing with, kids who are thinking at that level. So I appeal to like the fractional components of it. I appeal to the math aspect of it too. I kind of talk about it. Now, some don't like that, but some other kids kind of connect into that level as well. How I do this. Let me talk a little bit about how I do this. They have a 50-minute period at the school, and so your first 5 or 10 minutes are just getting roll call and things getting together. I spend the remaining 40 minutes right up to when the bell rings working. So that's one tip, 40 minutes, and kids can do that. And we're not used to doing that as adults because we would get tired. Kids have no concept of that. They just keep going, especially at that age. They were in TE for all that time as well, so they're shooting baskets for 40 minutes, so they can dance for 40 minutes. It's not a big deal. It gets tiring for you because then you have 5 minutes for the next class and maybe 7 minutes for the next roll call, so you only get 12 minutes off, which you're playing party music in the background, right, as the classes transition and going through, because you want to keep that party music going. I set the squares up. I just do a simple thing, get all the boys on one side, girls on the other side, just pair them off down the middle, force the squares. I don't deal with the politics of who gets to dance with whom, just set the squares up as fast as you can, and we go through it. Wireless mic is absolutely essential. Who brought that up? I have a wireless mic and headset, and I walk through the floor as I'm teaching. As I'm going through the floor, I'm teaching. My smallest class will be 3 squares. My biggest class is 10 squares. And, at the end of the hall, they're the guys that hang out, hide out, because they're the ones that maybe aren't interested. Remember, it's compulsory. So some people are not going to be interested in doing this. But you all have to do it. So you got to get everybody on the same page.
One of the things the teachers tell me is that, don't be disappointed if not everybody likes it. The kids that don't like it don't like anything else anyhow. So don't worry about them.
And that's the important thing, is to realize you've got to understand that, you can't get every kid to like what you're doing. There's no way it's going to happen. The best you can do is jump ahead and keep moving forward and appeal to what I call the bell curve of the mass, or the general mass. Make sure everybody in general is on track. You guys a question? Yeah. What?
In not every kid liking it, in my last senior high class, the teacher came to me and told me, that kid will give you fits. Had his pants down around his knees. On the third day of class, it rained cats and dogs. I mean, it went boom. He and one other child came running up, grabbed my sound equipment, and ran it up underneath the awning. I said, thank you. He says, well, the music sucks, but the equipment's great.
No comment on you, right, Ron?
Let me just interject it there. I found it very interesting. I have also worked in high schools, and the older kids will come up and check out the mini disc player and ask questions about it. They're very interested in that and the amplifier and the technology.
Okay, I realize also we're running out of time here, so I'm going to start talking faster. Are you ready? Yeah, wireless mic. Got to use the wireless mic, get around the hall, because if somebody in the corner is not doing something right, and you got to be able to walk back there. As soon as you're standing next to them, they start to paying a whole lot more attention to what they should be doing. I start the program with doing a lot of calls the first week. The first week is front-loaded. They'll get here and learn element left, right left grand, promenade, those are those, circle left, circle right, star through, pass through, and we'll probably get in courtesy turn, and probably get into lines. That's all in the first 40 minutes. So the next week and all the subsequent weeks, I'm only teaching 2 calls per week, but I'm adding on to it. So it gets all front-loaded in the beginning, because we find out I get a lot covered in the beginning, especially all the easy calls.
They remember from year to year also.
Well, no, because I'm dealing with sophomores every year. So next year they became juniors, and so all they might know is from an older sibling when it happened there. I'm going to talk a brief amount about sound systems and music. I use a laptop, as you can see right here. When I started out, I had a mini disc. I don't use records. The records I do buy, I record on my laptop. But I'm a strong believer in my personal philosophy is that you need to give sound reproduction to high school students in a way that they can relate to and understand. So I have a sound system that does that. So I use a rack mount amplifier. I use electro voice two-way speakers, and this particular class I use subwoofers as well. So for you if not experienced that kind of thing, it's not like it's a big, loud, noisy thing. It's more like a full range of sound like you might hear at a really good wedding reception, that kind of sound system going out to the kids. And I think it's important that they see that as opposed to a system that they might not relate to. It might seem like something that would fit into a stereotype they might have from a long time ago. So I think that the sound reproduction of them is very important. At the end of every year, I also survey the kids to find out what they like and don't like about the program. And it's in the report here. If you pick up the package, I ask them very specific questions about what is good, what is not good, and they kind of rate their responses and overall how much they like the program. I use this every year to improve the program to see what I can do to make it better. And every year it gets better and better. More kids like the program, so I'm kind of fine-tuning it as I go along. Some of the music I use, you may or may not know, but I remix some music. Like I'll take a pop song like this. And does anybody actually recognize this song? But it's the Eurythmics, Sweet Dreams That Made It This. I made it cheese, yeah. But you expect her to start singing any minute now, right? But she's not going to sing. Yeah, except she'll do some... There you go. So you can do that kind of stuff if you want to remix music. This is a big song by Pink a little while, and they love dances to the point where I would hear the hall. Oh, my daughter is a junior at this school too, so she had my program last year. So she hears the buzz in the hallway what people are doing, and most kids don't know that she's my daughter. So she hears anonymously what's going on. So this is a great one to dance to. It goes right where it is. Now, if you know this one from the 80s, this previous one was Get the Party Started by Pink. Does anybody know this song? BBC2's Love Shack, exactly. And people dance instantly to this. And the people that, if you do this at a regular square dance, those are the squares doing, which I do. I use this music all the time, regular square dances. Those that aren't square dancing are on the side doing a West Coast swing. Perfect West Coast swing music. I I use the original version of Funky Town. This is just straight up lip sync of the original disco music from the 70s. The one I started out with in the soul thing. Let me back up a second here. I might use some what I call traditional square dance music. And this is about the best traditional. This is the one I was talking about, Bluesberry Hill by Nitty Gritty Dirt Band. And this came out as a pattern. It's actually straight off a Nitty Gritty Dirt Band CD, and somebody presses on the vinyl and make it available as a pattern. I use that as well as this is Mike Sikorsky's Rain Dance. But the crossover, what I call the crossover song into like alternative music, is Swamp Thing. If you don't have Swamp Thing, you should get this. Because this is where you start realizing that you can go from traditional square dance music and cross over the techno pop into something else completely different. This came out a few years ago, and I can't remember the label it came out on, but sorry? It's Purple, that's right. Now, it might be Mountain. I'll also use other songs from way back in the 80s.
Too sexy for my love.
Now, if you think,
Sexy for my
how could you possibly dance to this, right?
You
can. Is that it? Is it without the words? So it came out as a pattern. I'm already there. So there's without the words. I just like do it over. Braveheart came out on a label. I can't remember the label it came out on a. I'm sorry, Global? There's another version of it that has a techno pop beat to it. And they will remember that as that bagpipe song. It has the techno pop going through, then it goes to the whole bagpipe routine. And again, you have to see if this kind of music's going to work for you. You got to do a lot of practice in working with this music. You have to sing with it. You've got to call with it. You got to know how to. They can hear right over the top of it. I was wrong about the other one. And the other one's this. Now, this is a song also out of the 90s, Unbelievable, by EMP. It's confusing with the other song we talked about this morning. And you got to retime these out. If you're going to do this, you have to make sure they time out to 128. If you're going to mix them to 128. If you're going to do dynamic speed control, make sure you have the software for doing that or whatever you need for hardware on that. Most recently in this one, I just picked up at the tail end, Vengas Boys. This is the best one. This one they should do. Get Vengas Boys? This is the best thing. These two songs off the CD is worth $100 right there, and you can probably get it for $9. And I put this on last night. I did a dance Saturday night, a big festival in Plymouth. As soon as I put this on, people started singing back at the music for this. And they all yelled. I don't know why they started singing back. Does he? And on the same one and this one came up as actually a TV commercial in our area. This is an old song from the late 90s called We Like to Party. It's on the same CD. But you have to pick these up as CDs. Clark and I were talking about this earlier. You can find most of these on Amazon. I have the actual songs listed back here. So we'll talk about that later. But you got to be able to be comfortable with music like that, or in my opinion, you have to be comfortable with music like that. You can use traditional square dance music. If you put a lot of fiddles on, you're going to reinforce a stereotype they grew up with. When you end up using this music and you call fast and you sing along with it and you're cranking along and you move the kids along, at the end they go, oh, and the period's over and they got to go. And they go like, yeah, this is cool. And at the end of 6 weeks, they go, cool. And they give a response back. They give an honest, anonymous survey back. And they tell me if they like it, they don't like it. And they get the comments back. And it does work over time. If you keep it up to their speed and you move with the kids, and my style is to teach them slowly, clearly throughout the period, to make sure everybody gets it. The last 5 minutes period, it is 100 miles an hour hot hash, and they run with it. And the kids are really into it, really get into it. There's always a square or two that don't care, but everybody else does. Go ahead, Don. We have a question from Don Thompson.
Actually, more a comment. It's been my observation over the years, and I've talked to Eric. We've talked about this stuff a time or two. These kids, he talked about front-loading and really jamming it. Guess what they do every day? They sit in classrooms all day. They're students. They're ready for it. Adults who have been working, they're tired, they're retired. Guess what? They're not ready for it. But what he says is the truth. They will pick it up. Even the young ones. Same thing. That's why it works.
Clark Baker.
I just wanted to say on getting some of the music that for the last 3 years we've had alternative music sessions at CALLERLAB. All the music presented at sessions and then some is on my website. So I have cards here if you need a pointer to that, but you can find the Venga Boys, Venga Bus one, for example. And there's another alternative music session coming up at 5 o'clock. So that's a good chance to find more of that kind of music if you'd like.
Come on up. I'm going to inject a comment here. I did a couple of high schools. One teacher that I've done for 4 years, I've done their school for 4 years, recommended me to a different teacher. And basically, by the time I got to lunch, the teachers in the teacher's room where I was having lunch had all heard all the kids talking about it all the way down the line because it wasn't what they expected. That was my goal.
Kind of going just like what you were talking about, 90 miles an hour. At the end of, Dave Harry once again, at the end of our teaching session that we do, I always run competitions, and we set them up in such a way to where we tell them, you dance until you make a mistake that you cannot recover from. When that happens, your square sits down, and the object, of course, is to be the last square dancing and not the first square down. You'd be amazed at how fast they pick it up and go. Nobody wants to be the first square down if they're into it. And you'll see them out there cheating just to stay up and keep going to be that last square down. Competition really works great in it. And talking about front loading, I do lots of junior highs. I don't do very much high school in our area because high school programs are tailored to, if you have to take PE, yes, but it's usually you take weightlifting or you take badminton or you take whatever, and it's those type programs. So we don't see high school dance programs in our area very much, but I do lots of junior high schools. And that means I see them as 7th graders, 8th graders, and 9th graders. When I come into a school and start working with the 8th and 9th graders, if I have no 7th graders in that class, you just start calling, and when they break down, that's when you start teaching. Don't ever walk into it and start, well, here's how you do an Allo-man left, and here's how you do an Allo-man right, because you just turned them off already. Here's how you do spin the top. It's usually where you start, and you've already covered 20 or 30 movements before you get to that just by spoon feeding them and going. So keep that in mind when you're teaching.
Okay. All right, Warren Black, I got a final comment. Okay.
Ron Black. For those of you who are worried about kids and hands down and cooties running down the hands, go to your local dental office and ask them for a box of dental gloves. They love it. They can color on them afterwards. They can use them for water balloons.
Al Chalk, Hawaii. I just wanted to comment because you mentioned phys ed. Each state has an alliance for health, physical education, recreation, and dance. Yona got stuck being dance chair for 5 years, which gave her the opportunity to provide workshops for teachers. She also gets called on by the teachers union to provide workshops. We are now at a higher level, I guess, because for 4 years we have provided a workshop at the American Alliance for Health, Physical Education, Recreation, and Dance. In fact, we just came from there in New Orleans.
Okay, I think, Eric, you want to make some final comments here, but there's a lot of this out there that, if you start investigating a little bit and start looking into it, you can get into the schools.
Okay, my last comments here, and then Betsy's got something to say, and we're going to wrap up the session here. Is one, I keep notes every week. Keep notes of what you do, especially if you have a multi-week program. Keep notes at the end of, it says, okay, 5th period last year week had a problem, and Bob couldn't turn around or something. I don't know. Keep a lot of notes as we're going through it. The other thing, and kind of going to what Yona was just saying there, I actually got involved one time with CAPERD, which is California Association of Physical Health, Education, and Recreation Dance, which is California side. There's a national level I know CALLERLAB is talking to. The best thing would be to figure out how we can leverage ourselves out. How do you multiply yourself? And you can only do that through the physical education teachers. And there are programs out there now that exist, but in my opinion, they're outdated. And I'm looking at a project to update to the 21st century, what it would look like to say, what does modern square dancing look like? And how can you sell that and put a package together in a box and sell it to the APERD members throughout the country? And I talked briefly with Mike Seaster about this, and we're going to try to figure out an outline for this. Anybody has an interest in that, please talk to me afterwards.
One of the things we're talking about, APERD, et cetera, I think it had to do with that requirement for dance, et cetera, that I got my first high school job. The particular high school, there's a teachers convention, state teachers convention in New Jersey is a Thursday and Friday of a certain week in November. For the Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday that week, they were looking to increase their phys ed experience. They had dance teachers invited in. There was a swing dance teacher, a country western line dance teacher, and a square dance teacher, and I know I have now been back to that school for 4 years, doing all 7 or 8 periods, introductory square dancing for a mixed bag of classes. It's freshmen and juniors and whatever, and all in the same class. They're not, and it's like all the phys ed periods of that time will all meet in the same room and do square dancing. I don't know if they had the swing dance teacher or the country western line dance teacher back, but I know I've been back, and that's how I got in there. And then that high school teacher who hired me recommended me to a second high school. Once you've got a foot in the door and you do a reasonable job, they'll pass your name along. Let me take it. Yona, you. Yes.
Yona Chalk, you keep mentioning getting in through PE. We discovered in the state of Hawaii that the money for all the arts and for physical education had simply evaporated and been dumped into the computer programs. We renamed our American folk dance program to be Exploring America on Foot from Colonial to Contemporary. We teach it now as a social studies unit. The National Dance Association is very excited because it means we can get into schools that are closed that have no funding for PE and other things. So for the last 3 years, and they've asked us to come back next year and do a session on just colonial dancing, 4th grade studies state history, 5th grade studies national history, American history through dance is the way we're going.
Paul Moore again. I got involved with homeschool program, and it was a coalition of families working together, and I did a monthly dance that was for the whole family. We went from about 6 to about 90, usually anywhere from 25 to 40 people on the floor. And the way that they could justify this was that I would always give a little bit of history of the dances I was doing, a little history of the music, and we were dancing, so they were getting their physical education and some U.S. history combined on it. And so it fit into their funding and their curriculum and so forth.
So the answer is be creative.
I just want to make a quick comment on the homeschooling thing, because I keep hearing when I talk to people, I am a homeschooler for one of my children, and I have been teaching homeschoolers in our youth group. I'm sorry, my name's Ruth Riegelhaupt-Herzig from Sunnyvale, California. And I want to just get rid of a myth. A lot of people say, oh yeah, they need to have dancing for PE requirements. And at least, I don't know about all of the country, in many areas of the country, independent homeschoolers do not have a physical education requirement. It is only if they're doing an independent study program through either a public or a private school that they would have such a requirement. So I just wanted to bring that up. The history combined with the physical education, I think, is an excellent point, because that will really appeal to homeschoolers.
Folks, we've got to wrap this up, and I want to thank you for coming today. And how about a nice hand for our panel? You see us in the hallway, you want to discuss things, you want to answer some questions, we'd love to talk to you about it. We hope you got something out of this today. And there is a package that from Eric here. Don't forget about the SISH handbook available from CALLERLAB. And thank you very much for attending today.